I've talked a lot in the past about how different weather types are your friends as a Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Master or in any TTRPG. But let's specifically talk about why that is and how weather as a generality can be used in D&D to make better campaigns, better encounters, and overall give your players and you as a Dungeon Master a better experience. So, as always, let's talk about it. When it comes to weather, any type of weather in Dungeons & Dragons, weather changes from moment to moment. And if, as a Dungeon Master or as a Game Master, you give this a little bit of thought and you think about how weather is going to impact the encounters, the campaign, the setting, the ambiance of the scene your players are in, weather can do a lot of things. Now, as a Dungeon Master, some people like to use random weather tables to see the changing of the weather. And this is something that I always have enjoyed. We are playing in a magical setting. We're not trying to recreate real weather patterns. And if you think about this, if you go back long time ago into a world where we didn't have meteorologists, which are wrong more often than they're right, weather came out of nowhere. Storms would just appear out of the middle of nowhere. The thing is weather can come and can go. And you can have stormy seasons where storms will just come and go. A little bit of forethought and your temperatures can swing from the high 90s to the low 30s at the same time. Go to Denver, Colorado. It'll snow in May. Made my wife pretty mad to lose those plants she was planting in her garden. The bottom line is weather can be used to alter the terrain, to alter anything just by using a random table or use the Dungeon Master saying the rain is starting to come in. And you can also foreshadow with it as well. Another thing weather can do as a Dungeon Master that you can use is foreshadowing. You can put, dark clouds on the horizon, a slow-moving storm that's coming in. That storm is then going to last for days. During certain seasons, maybe this is a thing. In the deserts your players are traveling through, all of a sudden rain comes in and creates flash floods, changing the path where they go and forcing them in another direction. This is not something to say that you're trying to railroad your players, but the weather is creating an environment that's changing where or when they can go to those places. The thing is I don't want to just talk about rain or thunderstorms or windstorms, but weather in general, from hot to cold, can change what your players are capable of doing. It also depends on what type of game you're playing. If you're playing an adventure survival game, well, then weather has a lot to do with survival. If you're playing a horror game, well, that has a lot more to do with ambiance. Weather in our games is a tool for you to use as a Dungeon Master to paint any picture that you need, whether it's encounter mechanics to foreshadowing to ambiance. Use it as exactly what it is, a tool in Dungeons & Dragons. Another thing I want to talk about when it comes to weather overall in D&D and TTRPGs is the mechanical advantages and disadvantages. They should be used to touch. The bad guys should get advantages when they're in there in favored weather. The wind is blowing, so therefore your archers can no longer shoot, and the entire bad guys are short-range melee fighters, so therefore you're going to have to close distance. It works the other way around as well. A lot of times when we talk about Dungeon Masters, we're talking about making counters harder. However, weather can also give the players advantages. In fact, you could even ask for a survival check, and you know that coming up with the weather cooling the way it is, fog will be rolling in most likely tomorrow morning. You as the Dungeon Master can tell your players that. Is it realistic? I don't know. I don't give a fuck. Who cares? The bottom line is that my players now have an advantage of trying to sneak up on the castle because they know tomorrow morning, based upon the weather, is going to be foggy in the morning. It'll give a cover for at least a couple hours until the sun comes out. Why does it matter whether they're wrong or they're right? The players rolled the survival check. Give them something. And weather can be one of those things. We always use stereotypical as a 30-plus-year-old's DMing. I'm well over 30. Dungeon mastering for so long. What ends up happening is we use those things, those mechanics to our favor as a Dungeon Master. What about turning on its head and allowing the players to use those mechanics in their favor? All of a sudden, everything changes. Now the players love weather, they love fog, they love rain, they love being able to use these things because you as the Dungeon Master can even give hints to them. It's amazing what happens when we take the mechanics that we favored and let the players actually have them instead. I always talk about the mechanics of weather in Dungeons & Dragons. However, that's the combat side of things. There's also the social mechanic sides of things. What happens when a rainstorm comes in? All the people leave the street. What happens when a dust storm's moving in? Everyone buckles down. When a hurricane's coming, people evacuate. Weather can change the social dynamics of a structure as well. A major storm that comes rolling in all of a sudden can affect what's happening, where the king's going to be, what he's doing with his people, where the lands are. Social interactions in a TTRPG can be just affected by weather as anything else. All of a sudden, now you're going to have to walk through the rain. Nobody's out in the streets. Now's the chance for the assassin to jump the party because there are no witnesses. Those are the little bitty things that look like you're planning things way far out, but in turn allow you to really think on your feet by simply changing the rain, changing the weather, changing those things. And in this time and age, we don't have the ability to predict. In fact, magic can even reinforce weather. And something else that I want to talk about when it comes to weather in Dungeons & Dragons is magical weather, because we're talking about a fantasy role-playing game. But also, what about magical storms, where magical energies pull through the world? What does that bring? Does it bring frogs from the sky? Does it part the seas? Does it, all those myths and legends that we hear, does it cause rain to fall upwards instead of downwards? What happens when magical phenomenon affect yours? Now, I'm going to do a whole video on magical weather, but I want to remind us that we are playing a game. And that's the best part of this, is we don't have to necessarily stick to what traditionally happens. It doesn't have to always be right. As long as there's not always some flash flood or a storm happening or a windstorm or a tornado rolling through or a hurricane, like as long as weather is not always affecting us negatively, as the players, we love to see it because it adds to the ambiance. It adds to the real life nature because we have weather in our world. We have days where the wind is blowing. We have days where it's dead still and the heat is bearing down, all in the same place. I live in Virginia. From day to day, I may have one day like today where the wind is blowing, it's breezy out, it's well in the 80s, but it's a gorgeous day out. It feels phenomenal. And then tomorrow I could get a torrential downpour. If I didn't have that little phone, that little app in my pocket telling me what's going to happen, I wouldn't know. Maybe in your world, magic people, you have magic forecasters, and they're just as wrong as we are. Or maybe they're more accurate, and you know tomorrow you're going to get rain. And there's a little app in your pocket because there's a stone that tells you the likelihood of rain. I don't know. You do it with you will. But in the end, remember, weather is something that you use as a tool, as a dungeon master, as a whole, whether you need it or not, to give your players advantage, players disadvantage, and you can use it as you see fit. So as always, guys, thank you very much. Like, comment, subscribe below, do the things, the punch, the doobly-doos. And as always, it's been a pleasure. And thank you for helping us grow this channel. And we'll see you next time.